Last Saturday, around 11 in the morning, 21-year-old Heather Perry was shot and killed near Verbena Street, south of Colfax in Denver. After reviewing surveillance video, police arrested Cornelius Haney, now accused of killing the woman. He was released early from prison, just 30 days before her death. Haney had been serving a 7-year sentence for a robbery. Court records show he stole from a Home Depot and pointed a gun at people when confronted back in 2014. His rap sheet, a dozen pages long, ranges from drugs to second-degree kidnapping. He had been in prison before, 5 years for felony assault, and he was released early in part because of coronavirus fears. Governor Jared Polis says this inmate would have been released anyway in August.
But of course, in making those decisions, they are taking into account the safety of prison guards and others. But no prisoner who is a danger to society should be released early in any situation. And of course, nobody on that parole board thought that this person was going to do what they allegedly did. But they couldn't have held him much longer under the law.
Over the last year, the Department of Corrections released an average of 821 inmates a month. But in April, when cases spiked and one prison had an outbreak, DOC released 1,368 inmates, and admissions to state prisons fell 43%. There are many factors a parole board considers before releasing an inmate: how they behaved in prison, how much time they served. But this case raises questions about how many people released during this pandemic have committed violent crimes. The Department of Corrections did not answer that question today. I'm Ryan Harrer, 9 News.